Smarties, today we welcome Alissa Opfer to the podcast. Alissa is a learning specialist at M.Ed therapist, and she is joining us today to talk about her journey leaving the classroom environment. She shares why she struggled leaving the classroom and what she has learned since leaving the classroom and joining M.Ed therapist. She also shares what she would tell others who are thinking about making this transition. If you are interested in making this transition yourself, both Kapp Educational Therapy Group and M.Ed therapists are hiring. Feel free to reach out to us at Rachel and Steph at LearnSmarterPodcast.com to get more information about how to apply. Let's dig in.
You want to learn faster, but sometimes working harder is just not the answer. You have to learn smarter. The Educational Therapy Podcast.
Hi, Smarties. Welcome to episode 320 of Learn Smarter, the Educational Therapy Podcast. I'm Stephanie Pitts.
And I'm Rachel Kapp.
And today I am thrilled to introduce the audience to Alissa Opfer, who is a learning specialist at my practice, M.Ed therapist. And I'm excited to have this conversation. So welcome, Alissa.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
So why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about who you are and what you do and who you do it for?
Sure. So long ago, in the olden days, I started teaching for a teeny tiny school district here in the South Bay and just fell in love with the job. My mom was a teacher in the same district, and I kind of just grew up with teaching and early literacy just in my blood and all around me. I would go with her every summer to help her set up her classroom, and I couldn't wait to have a classroom of my own. So I started teaching in the late 90s, kindergarten, first grade, third grade, and did that for about 25 years, which literally flew by. I know it's so cliche to say, but it's wild when you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, it really has been that long. I loved it. But about a year ago, I needed a change. I was ready for a change just due to some health reasons. I needed some more flexibility in my schedule. I needed to spend some more time with my family. You know, we all go through different seasons of life. And I was just at the point where a traditional kind of not 9 to 5, but as we all know, teachers work many more hours than that. Your traditional teaching schedule, it just wasn't quite possible for me anymore. And I was brokenhearted about it. I still wanted to teach. It's the only job I've ever wanted to do. And I feel like it's not just a job, it's just who I am, right? It's part of my identity. And I just was at a loss. I knew I needed to leave the classroom, but still wanted to make an impact. And one of my former students was a client at M.Ed therapist, and her mom suggested, oh my gosh, Alissa, this would be perfect for you. You should check it out. And that's kind of how I wound up meeting Stephanie, and everything else just kind of fell into place. It was such a happy accident, but it's really where I think I was meant to end up. And I have enjoyed my time at M.Ed therapist so much. I've learned so much, which, you know, when you've been doing a job for a long time, you think you know your stuff, but it's pretty cool to pivot into a similar field and then be able to learn so many new skills that you can apply in a little bit of a different learning setting. So it's kind of how I ended up where I am now.
So I love that. It's been almost a year since you've been on the team.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, it's flown by.
You are one of the reading gurus on the team. And you and I have had many conversations about how much it's in your blood and how much you love it. It's not in mine.
To do reading?
Yeah.
Yeah, both of us feel that way, but go on.
No part of me wants to do it. I did it, but I don't want to do it. It's not where my heart is. And so
we all have our specialties, right?
Exactly.
The biggest thing is you were well known in your district and well known in a couple of circles, being the go-to kindergarten teacher. You've won some awards.
The in-demand kindergarten teacher.
Won some awards. You've done some stuff. So I want us just to say, okay, you had to leave the classroom for some reasons that were very external on why, you know, health, family, things like that.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about this. It wasn't something that you ever imagined you would do. It was just sort of forced upon you in a way that you weren't expecting, which is what happens, right?
Life throws things at you sometimes, and I'm trying to learn that it's okay to not be in charge, but boy, that's hard.
Fair enough. So I wanted to talk about, when I originally said, like, I would love to have you come on, I wanted to really talk about this transition of working with clients in an educational therapy setting, of the one-on-one, the difference. I know there's a lot of teachers out there that are wondering, okay, how is it different? And also, it's very scary.
Well, and what I love about this is we've had other people in the past who are looking to make a transition out because they had like maxed out on being in the classroom, frankly, like they were burnt out on it. That wasn't the case here. This was still a passion for you. This was something that you loved.
Right.
So I'm excited to hear sort of your thoughts on all of this.
Well, yeah, definitely. So when I started at M.Ed Therapist, I was nervous, right? Anytime you're starting something new, no matter how much experience you have, it's a new environment, it's a new setting. I just wasn't exactly sure what to expect, but honestly, it just feels like you're doing your job with one student at a time instead of 26 and putting out 100 fires in the middle of a lesson. I know I told Steph on so many occasions, I am flabbergasted at how much I get done in one 50-minute session. I'm shocked. I still am shocked every single session. And I think that is just because, right, when you've been in the classroom, especially in the elementary grades, for a long time, you're used to never saying something one time. You are used to being interrupted constantly. That's just the nature of the beast, right? Someone always has an injury, like a 911 injury.
Right.
Someone's running away, like
bathroom accidents.
Oh, I will not even start on this bathroom stories in kindergarten would frighten.
Going to the nurse.
Yeah.
And then you wonder, like, are they going to come back?
Right.
You can't send anyone alone anywhere. They all have to travel in packs.
Right.
And I know that sounds so dramatic and like over the top, but all of that to say, you're just never in a place where you can get through a lesson uninterrupted. And that's okay. Right? That's okay. There are wonderful social and community benefits of the classroom atmosphere and environment that are such an important part of the process for kids. But, sometimes I would get frustrated. I couldn't get to all that I wanted to get to, especially when pulling small groups. So I loved pulling small groups, especially for reading instruction and writing instruction, phonics instruction when I could, for math as well, because you can really differentiate your instruction. You can remediate, you can enrich, you can group kids in a flexible way that allows you to really meet their needs in that moment. But you still have the rest of the class.
Right.
And so that's where it would get a little bit tricky. And it's totally fine. Kids need you. That's why you're there. But I always felt torn between that small group and that awesome lesson or activity I had planned, and then being able to monitor the other 20, 21, 22.
Your head's on a swivel.
You can't do it all well.
Yeah.
You can't. You try your best and they learn and everyone has a great year. But I would tend to get frustrated that I didn't feel like I was as productive as I wanted to be, that I reached as many students in meaningful ways as often as I wanted to. And I'm always impressed with how much I can accomplish one-on-one with a student during that 50-minute session time.
What I'm hearing you say, Alissa, is that you're able to meet your goals with each learner more efficiently.
Absolutely. Yeah, both. You just are able to provide each client with your 100% undivided attention. It's magic. That's where the magic happens. You see those moments where it all comes together for them, and there aren't the distractions that, a classroom setting is naturally going to have, which is fine. But that's been, I think, the thing that surprised me the most, transitioning over from teaching in a typical gen ed classroom to these sessions with students one-on-one.
One of the things that we've talked about in the past, the whole thing about you feeling like you weren't going to be able to make an impact, and that's what you truly wanted. And now that impact looks a little different, but it's definitely an impact. I mean, because you and I have talked about some of your clients and where they have grown, and parents that are calling and, struggling with readers. They're really behind, oftentimes like a couple of grades behind where they should be. And you've shared with me some of the wins of some of these kids that have almost caught up to grade level, within the year.
Yeah, I've just been so pleasantly surprised. I just didn't really know what to expect, like I said, which is what happens, right? When you try something new, and that can make you feel a little bit nervous. It can be a little bit overwhelming, but it was a leap of faith, but it was a leap I'm so glad I took. I've seen these students working so hard, gaining not only academic skills, but confidence, learning how to manage their own learning environments and using coping strategies and techniques that work best for how their brains learn. And that one-on-one instruction combined with working on executive functioning skills, combined with being able to just differentiate and individualize in the moment with such freedom has been such a joy. Because even in a small group, or even if you're pulling a student in a classroom, right, one-on-one, that's wonderful. But you don't get to do it for 50 uninterrupted minutes ever. Like, let's be real,
While jumping on a trampoline.
while jumping on a trampoline, while having a snack if we need a snack.
Yeah.
There are so many accommodations, modifications, fun environmental kind of changes, options that make this kind of environment and these learning sessions really
impactful,
tailored. Yeah. Impactful and easily tailored to what each student needs at that time, which, changes as you get to know them. Oh, that was another thing I wanted to talk about too. I wasn't sure, kind of going into this sort of new path in life, I wasn't sure how building a rapport was going to go in a one-on-one situation. When you're teaching in a classroom, right? You're building community, you're a family, and they're your kids for that year. So it's just a little bit different. It's a little bit more nuanced or differently nuanced, but I've been so happy and so pleasantly surprised just to see how quickly you form real and deep and meaningful connections with these teeny tiny little humans. And I know that both practices see clients of all ages, but I mostly work with younger kids because I'm not cool enough. They're very intimidating, those high schoolers.
But the little dudes, as I call them, the little dudes love you.
Oh, well, that's sweet.
They do.
We probably share the same maturity level. Maybe that's
And Alissa, are you seeing kids virtually as well?
I see some kids on Zoom and I see some kids in the office. Yeah, so both.
I know that's oftentimes the fear of both clinician and parents about that rapport. You're finding, for Steph and I, we have always found the rapport with the learners that we're seeing virtually to be meaningful. You're finding that as well.
Yes, I felt pretty confident. Funnily enough, I think I felt more confident about my Zoom kiddos than my in-person kiddos because, way back when COVID happened, Like we came home on that Friday the 13th and boom,
Yeah.
on Monday, we were 100% all in with online kindergarten, which is a whole other
Yeah.
podcast topic. But, if we're able to maintain that interaction and focus and engagement with 25 5-year-olds via Zoom during COVID, our team really worked well together, and we learned a lot of skills that translate to any age of learner. Also, just tools, tricks, fun games, different techniques that you find helpful on Zoom, but maybe you wouldn't necessarily use in person and vice versa, right? Depends on the setting. So I felt confident about my Zoom clients and being able to connect with them, which sounds like so funny. It sounds like it would be the opposite, but I think because I was used to, almost performing in a way, right? Like when you're teaching,
Right, it is.
You're kind of performing because everything has to be over the top and bigger than life to keep their attention and engagement going. And it's been really refreshing to be able to dial it back a little bit. I'm still working on just lowering my volume level.
Mm-hmm.
I will never forget long ago when I taught first grade, we got those new sound systems installed and everyone had the little microphone and you didn't have to project your voice and yada, yada around the classroom. And my partner teacher who was teaching next door came over and she's like, girl, maybe you don't need the microphone. I'm so sorry. So I've just always been a loud talker, which is great for recess duty, right?
Yeah.
But when you're working one-on-one, not necessary and a little overbearing. So I'm still learning that I can just use my indoor voice all the time. And it's been such a nice change.
Yeah. That's so funny. So now that we've talked about your sort of journey, I want to talk a little bit about who you think or why you think this leap that you had to take that was a little bit forced on you is something that somebody could do. I know it's scary. Looking at a year ago, we're recording this in June of 2024. So June of 2023, Alissa, what would you say?
What would you tell yourself?
I would say, girl, don't freak out about this. You've got it. You are fine. I just wasn't sure that my skills would translate, and they absolutely do. It was just new to me. That's all. And when things are new, they can be scary sometimes. It doesn't matter how confident you are at a job you've done for 20 bajillion years, right? When you're pivoting and doing something within the same realm, but not exactly the same position, you need to learn some new skills for sure. There's going to be growth and opportunities to learn, but it's so absolutely worth it. I would say to all of those teachers out there who, for whatever reason, right? And the reason doesn't matter, for whatever reason, who are in need of a change and are looking to maybe leave the classroom, but still just have that passion for education, that love for students, who really want to make that one-on-one connection and make a difference in the everyday lives of these kids in their school journeys. Absolutely reach out and give it a try. It has been so rewarding for me. I've met the most talented learning specialists, ed therapists, counselors, so many people that I, never would have thought I would have gotten to meet. And being able to spend that time one-on-one with kiddos in such a meaningful way is just beyond rewarding. So is teaching. But when you are at the point where, for whatever reason, it's not for you anymore, this is just such the perfect fit, the perfect segue into part two of your educational career.
I don't think you could have said it any better. The thing that I think I remember you saying, you had this fear of not being able to fill your cup the way you were in the classroom. Mm-hmm. Then I remember, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 months ago, you said to me, Stephanie, I'm never going back. And And I think that was the moments where you started to feel, okay, this is my journey now.
Yeah.
And isn't what you expected. It doesn't look the same.
Right.
But you're still filling your cup. It's just a little bit different.
Exactly. It's been so amazing.
What was an unexpected thing that happened as you transitioned?
Oh my gosh. So probably the biggest surprise and kind of full circle moment was discovering that a fellow team member at my ed therapist was in my very first class when she was a third grader several years ago. And she was also a flower girl in my wedding, which is
oh my gosh,
so sweet. And reconnected years later. And I remember calling her and asking her if it was okay if I interviewed for this job, because I didn't want to like invade her space or step on her toes. Like, how weird to get a phone call from your third grade teacher, 20 some odd years later. And she said, are you crazy? Yeah. Oh my God, of course, go for it. And it has been so much fun just seeing her grow and develop into this amazing ed therapist. And now I'm learning from her, which is, beyond, right? Beyond all expectations. So that was probably the biggest kind of surprise in this whole process.
Yeah. Which is just wonderful. I think the other thing that you and I have talked about some too is just sort of looking at things from a different lens now in the practice, and just sort of learning some of the things that you couldn't pay attention to with 26 other kids, that now you can pay attention to with each individual student and what they're going through. Like we were just talking about vision therapy, for instance, right? You wouldn't necessarily know that some of your students were doing it because the parents might not tell you as a classroom teacher. And now they're telling you because you're part of the team.
Right. You get the chance while working in this setting to know everything there is to know about your client in order to help them the best way you can and to support them the best way you can. And it really is, you said it best, it really is a team effort, right? And so our role, we're one part of the team, and being able to communicate with these students' teachers, with other specialists who support them has been so helpful. We all kind of share information, right? And knowledge about what's working best, what else could we try, and supporting both the students and parents, during that process. And, as a mom myself, like I get it. It can be really scary when you're reaching out for some support for your kiddo. And it feels really good to be that helpful person, right? Who's there to alleviate some fears for parents, to really give our clients this power. You are a learner. You are a reader. You are a writer, right? Helping them see themselves as whatever they did not when they came in. I just started with a new client, and during our first session, my heart was breaking. She said, I hate reading. And I was like,
stop everything. Yeah.
I kept it together, but inside I was falling apart,
Yeah.
As the woman who has a stack of books in waiting to read at all times, right? So it's my job with her, like job number one is to flip that thinking around, and show her.
Yeah, flip the script. That's the one that we were playing with, the Inside Out dolls.
Yes.
That was fun. We had some fun with that, you and I. Yep.
Well, and it's so cool to be able to use some, non-traditional methods and be able to practice to work in a more relaxed setting. That's been really, really fun,
So my office, it looks like a living room.
Yes. Like the big waiting room sort of area.
Yeah. And you sit at the table that's like sort of the kitchen table, the dining room table.
Totally.
And there's a couch. And you sort of just, naturally treat it as this just come into my living area type of environment. And the kids feel that. I can see them feeling that.
Oh, good. Well, I think I was like, okay, This is the biggest space. This is the most like a classroom. I'm like, I feel the most at home here. I can move around. Like, this feels good. And it's just so casual. It's not formal. You know, the clients just call us by our first names, which is wild. I still can't get over that, right? Because when it's not a big deal, but for so many years when they call you Mrs. So-and-so, it's just funny.
Right.
But they know you differently and they trust you differently.
It's just not that sort of traditional hierarchy, right? You're still a person in an authority position, but especially maybe with the younger kiddos, because they do need some redirecting and re-engaging and setting some limits, you know, et cetera. We need to make each session as productive as it can be, but also fun, and also so that they are wanting to come back. I tell you that one of the best things I can hear from a parent is so-and-so always looks forward to coming for session, you know, or I said to so-and-so, let's take the summer off and then we'll start again in August. And he or she said, no, I want to keep coming during the summertime. And that just means the world to me. That just melts my heart, right? That tells me I'm on the right track. We're always working to improve and to better ourselves, but knowing that these little humans are making the choice to spend their time with you is huge. And I'm so grateful for it.
I think that's a lovely way to just say, if you're thinking about it or you're a teacher and have been wondering, is this for you? That says it all, right? So thank you for sharing your experience, because I think it's very meaningful to hear after leaving a setting that you were in for so long that it looks a little different, but how natural it was for you. And now you're on this path of helping learners in a little bit different of a way, but having a huge impact on their lives. The fact that a kid wants to come and still work on reading all summer with you, and most of your clients chose that, it says something. It says something about you as an educator. It says something about you as a person, and it says something about the work that we do.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining us. Thank you for being vulnerable and coming on and sharing your experience, because I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people.
Thank you so much. It's just been such a pleasure. I really appreciate it.
Go ahead and say your signature sign off.
Have a great week, Smarties.
Have a great week.